but I think that generally Americans feel like we are number one. And I say that to say that where America actually is now and where it's going is the biggest conversation that Americans, I feel, aren't having. What is going on? You are tapped into the Crucial Combo podcast with your gracious host, Kojo Afriye, and my lovely wife next to me.
Hello, Faith Afriye.
What's good? What is good, everybody? So we are entering. These aren't even. I wouldn't even say this is interesting times. It's been interesting times. It's just getting interesting.
From the jump, it's been interesting. It's just so many moving parts right now.
How you feeling about America right now? What do you think is going on right now?
Well, I mean, there's just a lot of moving parts. The plan is going into action now, so I'm not surprised with. Yeah, I'm not surprised with the plan because it's always been stated from the beginning, and now I feel like. I mean, the plan isn't even done. It hasn't even been completely implemented. So this is just kind of like the start.
Yeah.
For everything. This isn't gonna. I feel like. Well, I feel like people are panicking and everything, and I don't feel like it's not necessary to panic right now because it just started. It's not like it's even finished.
Well, let's talk about what everybody's panicking on. Let's set it up a little bit. So,
yeah.
Now, obviously, over the weekend, or right before the weekend, Liberation Day, Donald Trump imposed these tariffs. So everybody's panicking about the tariffs, and I want to do this. The whole reason for this show in particular is because I feel like I came to a particular revelation as to everybody's panicking, but the overall opposition to what this administration is doing.
Okay.
And I had a good conversation with a friend of ours the other day, and me and him go back and forth because he did not like this administration. He doesn't like what's going on, and we kind of had a long conversation going back and forth talking about why I thought things were going in the right direction, or it was the best option, and I hadn't seen a better option. So right now, let's go into, before we get into, I want to play an interview with Mark Lamont and Richard Wolff, respected economists. But there's some things he said in that interview that I think for me was like, it was a light bulb moment for you.
Okay.
Personally.
Can't wait to see it.
So before we get to that, let's get into some of the protests. I want to play some of the stuff. Let's play some of the stuff of people protesting. There's protests, they say, in about all 50 states. I don't know if that's true, but there are protests in most major cities. So I think this one is from New York. I'm going to play this real quick and just kind of, let's get a feel for what the people feel. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of anger out there. From what I'm seeing, most of the anger is D.O.G.E cuts.
Yeah.
More than anything else. I think people are mad about tariffs, but I don't think the average American really understands tariffs and why you would do them or not do them. But people do hear that, hey, we might pay more for tariffs. So people are like, oh, hell no, I don't want to pay more. It's already expensive.
Yeah, tariffs talk isn't really, it's not hot on the presses right now, although it's being talked about. But I think it's all the protesting, like you said, with the D.O.G.E cuts.
Yeah.
Keep your hands off of this. No, this. No, that. Yeah. There's
that's the main thing, right?
they're like they hate Elon, and yeah.
Let's play a little bit of this the spirited energy going on in the American public. Let's
hear what they're saying.
So, what are we protesting today?
Donald Trump.
Well, what's Donald Trump doing that we're protesting?
Well, he is fucking up the American American democracy right now and trying to kind of repeal a bunch of shit in the Constitution, like, rights and liberties. So,
Is there anything in specific that
I don't have all the information, but I do know.
What are you against?
Personally, I'm against tyrants. I'm against tyranny. That's what I'm against.
What is that?
Somebody who's coming in and trying to take over the country and get rid of the rules and regulations that have existed for centuries to keep us citizens safe.
And who do you think is doing that?
Currently, Donald Trump and Elon Musk and all of his cabinet members.
Why Elon Musk, though?
The Department of Government Efficiency, he was put in charge of a department that doesn't even exist before this, and he's not even an American.
Who's not an American?
Elon Musk. He's from South Africa. I don't know if you knew that.
How do you feel about Donald Trump?
I think that he deserves to die.
He should what?
Die.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
So who do you want to run America?
The people, preferably.
You want the people to run America?
Like a democracy should be. Yes.
Do you feel like the people voted for him?
I think the people were fooled.
Fooled by who?
Him.
How?
I don't.
It's a false consciousness.
It's a what?
It's a false consciousness.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so
Can I see your sign?
Can you see it?
No, I was saying right here.
To the camera.
No, to the camera, brother.
I'm talking to you.
But I'm interviewing. I got a mic.
I don't care about that.
You decided to
I'm
talk.
here as an individual.
Individual.
I'm here as an individual.
Okay.
I'm talking to you as an individual.
Okay. Well, I want to see the sign. If you have a sign.
Read the sign.
Okay. All right. What's the sign say? What does the sign say? Hold on, brother. What does the
You go out of your way.
All people are children
How about that?
of the earth.
Yeah, all people are children of the earth. Can you disagree with that? Can you disagree with
No,
that?
I can't disagree.
What do you got to say?
So this,
Am I missing something?
yo, yeah, it's so funny though.
Missing something?
No, I don't think you missed anything. I think
He's so mad about
I think
it.
he's missing something. So what's interesting about the protests, and again, these are some examples. I'm not saying everybody protesting out there doesn't have an idea, but I've been watching a lot of different people online like question protesters. Where is America at right now? So let's put down some facts, right? That no one's disagreeing.
Yeah.
We all agree that the national debt, let's get the exact number, is $36.2 trillion. That's the national debt right now. That's how much our country is in debt.
Yeah.
$36.2 trillion. Now, our national budget deficit, the money we spend versus what we take in, we're negative like $1.8 trillion, right? So no one debates that. No one has a beef. No one is saying that doesn't exist, right? All these people who are protesting, I would say they have no idea. They don't have a clue. Or if they do have
About
a clue,
about the deficit and
Yeah.
the national debt, you don't think they have a clue?
I think they hear it, but I don't
Well, you know what I don't think?
Yeah.
I don't think they're tying the two together. I think they
tie
know
it together.
the deficit and getting rid of wasteful spending, which is what DOGE is basically doing. They're finding a lot of fraud, misspending, and trying to figure out where the money is going, and if it's not going into something that is needed,
Right.
or if it's considered wasteful and you can like combine it with something else.
Yeah.
Repurpose it into
something else.
repurpose it into something else, or move it to another maybe government department that can handle it, and just get rid of the one department, like making one department handle multiple things.
Yes.
So I feel like they're consolidating. That's what it is.
Yeah, in some cases they're consolidating, in some cases they're just cutting.
In some cases, and
and
so I feel like, hold on, I didn't finish the thought.
Mhm.
I feel like that guy is not tying the two together, like
That guy just speaking.
the guy who was speaking, like we're fighting against this, that, like rights, and I feel like he's not and he's fighting against DOGE, Elon Musk, and what they're doing. I feel like he's not tying that the national debt that we have and the deficit that we are in are because of the waste that is going on in the government, and we're just DOGE is just trying to get rid of the waste.
So watching where people are at. The reason why I think people who are protesting aren't tying stuff together is because America, we're very much into brands right now, and when I mean brand, I mean Democrat, Republican, or people. right? We love to figure out who to not like. You know what I'm saying? So I think that
Who's the bad guy?
we always
We love a bad
every
guy.
story needs a villain, yo. Every story needs a villain, and I think there's no better villain than Donald Trump. And of course, I think they're like Batman and Robin.
And his sidekick, Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. or is Elon Musk Batman now? I don't know who's Batman, who's Robin. But they're definitely the villains of the time. Listen, I'm so glad you're enjoying the content. I try to never take days off. You know who else never takes a day off? Hackers. Every day they're breaking into the databases of major companies trying to steal our information. They take that info, sell it to spammers and identity thieves so they can target you. And the crazy part is they never even face consequences. The government can ban TikTok, but they can't stop identity theft. We got to protect ourselves. That's why I use today's sponsor, Aura. You know the internet can be like the wild, wild west out here, and Aura keeps me safe. They identify data brokers who are trying to sell my information online, and they automatically submit an opt-out request on my behalf. Give Aura just a few weeks and you'll stop seeing your information on these sites when you go to search yourself, which will definitely lead to less spam. The great thing is that Aura will continue to monitor the dark web for me and let me know if any of my personal information has been exposed. They're going to let me know really fast if anyone is trying to use my information to access my credit or my bank account. On top of that, they're going to give me $5 million. Yeah, I said it, $5 million in identity theft insurance if the worst case scenario happens. The Aura app also has a VPN with 100 plus virtual locations. Does your current VPN have that many features? I doubt it. Go to my link in the description at Aura/Crucial Convo Pod and try it for 14 days for free. That'll be more than enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal information has been exposed. But I think it's interesting. Let me go to this interview between Mark Lamont and Richard Wolff, the economist. I think it's very interesting because I'm going to tell you when I came to my revelation of the arguments that are going on with this whole thing. So
you mentioned Elon Musk. He has not just been a public cheerleader for Donald Trump. He's been brought into the fold in very concrete ways, kind of to help dismantle the federal government. They've gutted entire departments, including aid agency, USAID, as well as the Department of Veterans Affairs. They've terminated thousands of contracts, and they're set to lay off tens of thousands of workers in what might be effectively the biggest job cut in U.S. history.
Mm-hmm.
They're not done.
No.
They're setting sights on the U.S. Department of Education.
But again, for an employer, this is nirvana because he's not going to have to tax them. Look, he has to deliver that to them. How's he going to do it? He could borrow the money. That's what his predecessors did. But we are now at a level of debt this country has never seen. It's becoming a scary problem because if the rest of the world no longer lends to the United States government to cover its deficits, what are we going to do? Let's remember that for many, many people, you get paid less if you work for the government than if you go in the private sector. And the compensation for that was job security. What Mr. Trump and Mr. Musk are doing, more than what the workers are that they fire, is they've taken that security away. Where do you think public employees are going to go if either they've lost their job, which is happening to tens of thousands, or they're scared silly that they might lose their job? They're going to go into the private sector. Where else are they going to go? Which means they're going to drive down wages and working conditions in the private sector because the worker who comes from the private sector laid off after 5-10 years, that means not only your job is gone, your income is gone, but your career ladder has just been yanked out from under you. So you're desperate. You're worried. You will offer yourself one way or another for less money than the person who's in that private sector job now.
He said two interesting things. He said the government worker goes in, and typically the balance for the government workers that maybe you get paid less in the government, but you have security. And this is something that we had talked about before, because typically when you work for the government, you expect, or the city or the state, all that's all government, you expect security. And I think that's where federal workers are discombobulated because they feel like they're supposed to have security. But it kind of goes against the whole aspect of us being in a deficit and spending too much.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting that he said that.
That was
And,
interesting.
and Dick Wolf is very respected. So
And I think that's actually, I mean, if what you provide in the government is no longer needed, you get fired or laid off, whatever, and it forces you into the private sector, I think that's actually a good thing, because then wages, I feel like, are going to be more competitive. It's going to be skill based, so you're going to hire people who are really good at their job because it's going to be more skill based, and I think that's going to be better for the consumer at the end of the day.
that's a little bit of I think that's a little bit of a stretch.
I don't.
Because if
Yeah,
you
I
have
don't think. I
skill, to
think
your
it's.
point,
I think it's going to be competitive. I think it's going to make the field competitive. I don't think you're just necessarily going to settle for less. Oh, this is all I can get. No, you. It's going to make you more competitive, and I feel like it's going to harness in more on your skill. What can you offer? Actually, offer the company.
and
So
you
I
know
think
what?
that's
For
great.
sure, for sure. And then also too, I feel like okay, even if you make that argument, so if let's take the federal government as the employer. If
Hmm.
the employer is in bad fiscal shape and is spending too much money, do you just keep the level of employees just because they're going to be going to the private sector?
Never.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not arguing whether every cut Doge is making is correct. I don't
Right.
know that. You know what I'm saying? But the point is like the reasoning to keep the government the exact same way it is now
Yes.
can't be that you just don't like the changes. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That to me as a voter, as a citizen, that's just not enough. I'm looking for like logical reasoning.
Yeah.
So when
Hmm.
I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, I was like, well, these are the things. Doge just saying they're finding this and this and that. They're finding this, that. And I think the reaction going back to the protesters, a lot of people are like, I don't even want to hear what they got to say because I don't like them and they're all lying and they're all evil.
Yeah.
And I think that's a weird place.
They're tyrants. They're going in there. They're taking control. They're not, no one is monitoring them. They're not, it's just all, because that's what it looks like, I guess. From the outside looking in,
You feel that way.
if you feel that way, it you if you feel that way, it can look that way, right?
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
So
What
if
you
you
see,
feel
what you perceive is what you see.
what you feel can show up in your reality. But
Of course.
and it's so funny that it's not that's not the reality. So if you step back from your feelings and just see exactly what's taking place, it's not a tyrant in there who's just getting rid of everything for everybody so that they can make more money. It doesn't make any sense. When you really break down and look at the things that they found,
Well, people don't see. Here's the thing.
it's like when you got
People
to
don't
look
believe.
beyond. Yeah, you got to look beyond.
No, but here's the thing. If I
And
don't want to listen to you, like if you're trying to present something to me and I'm just like, I don't like faith. I don't like what you stand for. I don't like your jacket. I
yeah,
don't like your pants.
yeah,
I don't like your name. I don't
yeah,
like where you from.
right.
I don't even like the fact that you there in the government period. I ain't hearing nothing you trying to
Okay, well
say.
then that's something different, because if you just don't like the person, no matter if they're doing good, no matter if he's feeding all the children, all the hungry children in the world, somehow that is still not going to be good enough. So I mean, if it's just that you hate the person, then I mean,
It's a dead end.
yeah, it's a dead
It's a
end. There,
dead end of a
we
conversation.
really can't have a conversation
That's what I
about
think
it.
is lacking in America is that citizens to me are not having conversations. That's what we try to do on this channel is try to have conversations. You know what I'm saying? Like when we have larger panel conversations, like how do we have a conversation with people that are not like either, oh, you're a Trumper or you hate Trump. Like
Right.
this country is not about Donald Trump. And one of the things about this particular episode is really looking at the fact of, okay, what are people protesting? Have they explored what they are protesting for?
Mm-hmm.
And also the biggest thing, what do they see for the future of America? That's the thing. And I'm gonna
That's
tell
it.
you, we haven't got to my revelation yet, but
Hold
we're
on.
gonna get to it. But go ahead, go ahead.
Oh yeah.
Whatever's on
You
your mind.
just said no, you just said a lot right there. It's not about it's not about Republican, it's not about Democrat, it's not about liberal, it's not about conservative, it's not about, because to me, all of those things identify a person.
Mm-hmm.
It identifies a person, but that's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be enough where you just see the identity and you don't see anything beyond the exterior, you don't see anything beyond that first layer.
Right.
Then, we shouldn't be thinking along those lines. We should always look beyond the exterior, right? We
Yeah.
learned that in our past. So we learned that,
Right.
we should
Right.
look beyond the exterior and know that, like, because this is where it doesn't quite link up for me. I don't understand how something that is designed, something that is happening, and it's happening for the betterment of people, maybe the country. For example, like getting rid of the gangs, that were here illegally and transporting them back to where they go. Like, that's a good thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
How can you misconstrue that? And then you have protesters out here saying, bring them back, bring them back, bring them back.
Yeah.
What I would like to know is exactly who are you wanting them to bring back? Specifically, like, who are you wanting them to bring back? Because the people that they are taking by the airplane loads are bad people. So,
you know what? That's a good point, and I think that I'm sorry unless you finish.
well, I was just saying that that's just an example, but there's a misalignment there for a lot of things that are happening right now, as far as DOGE, as far as immigration, as far as
but I think
anything that's
I think
like
the biggest
really
point is sticking on that real quick
happening
about
right now.
immigration. That
Not
point,
the right wording, but
that point that you're making is like the reason why, because you're asking people. So when you deport people, even if immigration, real quick, we talk about immigration. With immigration, first you have people who didn't acknowledge that immigration was a problem. You know what I'm saying? And then people who do acknowledge that it's a problem. When you start to do deportations, and let's say you're getting groups of gang members, trend. I always say the name of that gang wrong, but Trendy or Agua, if I'm saying it right, and or MS-13 or any other gang or whatever they get rid of. There's always cases where there are people who shouldn't be deported, or we should reevaluate it.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that this time around in America, I think that people are only okay if everything is 100% right. You know what I'm saying? If you've been done wrong, like there was a Cuban couple that raised their kids in I think they're in Los Angeles or in the LA area. They raised their kids. They've been here since 1980.
Yeah.
They're like retired now, or they're older. They have like 5 kids. They got grandkids. Their whole family's here, and they basically got deported. It might be Cuba or it could be Colombia, either one. Don't quote me, but it's one of the two countries, and they just got deported back. So there's cases that I've seen that people have sent me that are people who shouldn't be deported, which I agree. But at the same time, to your point, people will take something that's wrong and say that whole thing should be stopped.
Whole thing should be stopped.
So
yeah.
the question is, what do you do? What do you do if you're leading the country? Now, you might say, hey, there's some situations with immigration I don't agree with. Like I said, I feel that. But at the same time, the answer can't be do nothing, because we did have a lot of people who shouldn't be here, to your point.
Yeah.
So I think that Americans, it's weird. We like fight against things that are actually good for our country, which is just, but it's phenomenally strange. It's phenomenally strange. And let me keep it honest. I think Americans, we're babies. We're very babyish politically. Maybe the rest of the world is too. Like I said, I don't know, but we're very babyish. Like right now, I'm not saying people shouldn't be mad about tariffs and the instability, and the stock market lost $2 trillion on Friday, but the stock market can come back. It can come back. The stock market is reactionary and speculative. But point being is that, yes, there's some cause for concern. But the question is like, okay, are we just going to be mad every time things are not perfect? I don't understand. Where was this type of energy when other presidents were in office, not just Joe Biden. Why is this so different when Donald Trump is in office? Like we didn't have the same problems, like we didn't have the deficit. You know what I'm saying? Like we didn't have jobs that were gone. You know, I just don't understand why we want to make this villain the main part of the conversation all the time. That is just weird to me. But um, I'm gonna go back to I want to go back to Mark Lamont and
I wish I
Richard
knew
Wolff.
the answer. I wish I knew the answer. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Like we said, it's just the guy. It's just the guy. It's the guy who's doing it. It's not the fact that he's doing it because like I said, I don't care who does it. It's
Yeah.
something that needs to get done. You know, doing an audit in the government is actually a good thing because you want to make sure that the money isn't, the money that we are giving the government isn't being something that's being wasted. Otherwise, I mean, it's not their money that they're spending. It's our money that they're spending. It ain't not like it's coming out of their pocket. This is our money that they're spending. So I look at it like it's nice to know where the money is going.
Yeah,
I'm
and
I,
if it's being spent wrong.
and if it's being spent wrong, honestly, I had no clue where the money was going. I
Well,
honestly had no clue. I knew it was going into, education, healthcare,
right.
those things, but
We never talked as a country. We never
we've
had these
never had these
conversations before.
conversations before. So the revelation for me is everything. I'm loving the revelation because now I know what has been wasted and it's not even that I know each detailed about each
Yeah,
fraud and each case that they found. I don't know the details, but I'm just happy that they're finding something that doesn't need to be there. So bye.
well, why don't we? Well, why don't? Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Why don't we take time to understand what they found and okay, so what I understand, people have an issue with the fact that everything is not congressional and they're not having a congressional vote as to what to cut each time. And I think that, and this is just my opinion, the reason why I think Doge was created and the way they're going about it is because government, two things. One, we're in such a dire position as a government,
Yeah.
and I think the way government moves so slow and there's so
Yeah.
much partisan bullshit that goes on,
Yep.
and they don't like Donald Trump. So even if he was to try to push every cut congressionally through, he doesn't even have to do that, from my understanding.
That would take too long.
It would
That
never
would just
happen.
take too
It would
long.
never happen.
And like you said, we are in dire situations.
Yes, we're in.
We
Yeah,
are in dire situations when it comes to the safety of the country, when it comes to economic standing, when it comes to this country not being number one. We've been number one.
wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait.
I say something good,
No,
baby.
no, listen. You just said something. See, that's exact. What's that again? This country not being what?
Number one.
So before I even play this clip, anybody who's listening to this, if you're American, do you still feel America is number one? And do you think we'll always be number one? Now, it's rhetorical right now, right? Because there's no audience, that can respond back at this moment. But this is what I believe. I believe if you ask most Americans, the default answer might be like, yeah, we're still the richest country and we can still do all these things. We should be providing universal health care. We should be able to do these things. We should be able to support whatever war, whatever it is. That America's still number one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you ask some people, they may say we're not number one. But I think that generally Americans feel like we are number one.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that to say that where America actually is now and where it's going
Mm-hmm.
is the biggest conversation that Americans, I feel, aren't having.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to tell you why. So let's say this. People don't like Donald Trump and Elon. We understand that. They don't like this administration. They think the administration is reckless and they are doing all these things either in the wrong order or in the wrong way, right? We understand that. Now, let me go back to Mark Lamont and Richard Wolff real quick.
Over here and put on my red MAGA hat for a second.
Okay.
I'm going to represent the position of Trump potentially.
Good.
Yeah, we're cutting taxes for the richest among us. Yes, we're giving more and more benefits to corporations, but that will create jobs. that will allow us to take risks, that will allow us to spark innovation, that will allow us to create the next big market, that will allow for, more wealth for everybody. If we build a new internet, if we build a new auto industry, if we build a new thing, everybody gets a job, everybody wins, more money's on the table.
This was a reasonable argument. I don't think it was ever true. I'm a professor of economics. I've studied it all my life. What you're saying is a nice way, a better way than they usually do, for what used to be called trickle-down economics. You help the folks at the top, you boost the profits, you give them a tax cut, and it'll trickle down to a good job for me and all that. I'm going to be more nice now than I ought to be. There was a grain of truth to that, but it isn't anymore. And that's perhaps the most important thing that I can tell you. And I'll say it as bluntly as I know how. The American empire is over. We're done. We peaked about 12, 15 years ago, and we are on a down. And it's very hard for the American people, which I understand. I am one. It's hard to get your head around that. We've had a century of on the way up, which is a lot more fun than on the way down. But it does happen to every empire. We're only the latest. Look at the British, how far they've fallen. We're in that process. So the problem with the trickle down is, there might be more jobs, but they're going to be created in China. They're going to be created in Brazil. They're going to be created in India. They're not created here.
There's my revelation. So my revelation is America, is it over for us? That's the whole title of this show. Is it over for America? That's the revelation. And let me explain my revelation. My revelation, I realized that the opposition, and I'm not talking about the people on the street. I'm talking about the people who, like a Richard Wolff or anybody else who's more in tune and can give you a more intelligent conversation as far as geopolitical stuff. There's an opposition that I think believes that this is over for us in America. And what I can play some more of his clip, but what he talks about with Donald Trump, he thinks that Donald Trump's tariffs and policies are all a move of desperation. They won't change anything anyway. And this is where, so when you ask yourself, so here's for us, we're centrist over here. We're not Democrat or Republican.
No.
But just feel me out on this one. Now we're centrist. So the way we looked at it, we said, okay, in the general election, we had two parties. We always had. We both, I guess I can speak for both of us here. We both didn't vote for Kamala because she didn't present a plan based on, and I told
the dire situation.
Dire situation.
Yeah,
so there were three things we looked at.
Yeah.
3 things we looked at were immigration, the national deficit, trade imbalances. We learned more about it, right? So
the economy
in general, which includes the economy. So when you look at those things, I don't feel like the Democrats had a plan
to address
those things. And so Trump had a plan to address it. Now that he's doing it, okay, we could have a conversation about whether we don't like what he did, what he's doing. But what I'm realizing now is there is a huge faction of those who feel like it's not going to make a difference anyway. So the question is, do y'all feel like it's just game over and y'all ain't doing anything? Y'all don't want to do anything regardless?
I don't think that's the answer.
I don't think that's the answer.
You can't just sit on your hands and do nothing. Absolutely not. That's not the answer. I don't know if this is necessarily a desperate ploy. I don't feel desperation. I feel like if it needs it, we can't wait another year. We can't wait another 4 years. You know what I mean? It it has to happen now. Otherwise, then we will be in that spot on the chessboard.
Well,
that I don't know what what play that would be, but if it's not done now, then it's over. It is game over. If it's not done now, then it will be game over. So I really don't feel like it's desperation at this point. I think right now I still feel like we have the upper hand as a country. And I'm not mad at the move. I'm not mad at the move of with the tariff situation. I'm not mad at charging, certain countries more, or at least, I feel like this is going to bring conversation to the table. you know um yeah, it's a bold move. It's probably a move that we will probably feel temporarily, but I think it's helping to bring conversation to the table because we do business with other countries. This is like a business situation here, like a business move, I guess. It's trade, so we do business and exchanges with people around the world. So we just want to make sure we get a fair deal, so that everybody can make money and support the citizens in the country. So I'm not mad at it. And I feel like this is not the final the final amount or the final ruling on tariffs. I think there's going to be some talking now. Hopefully, it's bringing everybody to the table so they can make a fair deal. So I feel like this is all a means to an end, and I don't think it's good to try to draw a conclusion out of what's happening right now.
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. And when you look at the alternative, you know, I love the way you just laid it out, what you said, because, it's laid out in a way as just an everyday American citizen, right? So
That's who I am.
Someone
That's who we are.
Yeah, that's who we are.
That's
We
who
everyday
we
people.
are. Yep.
Someone could come along from a geopolitical standpoint who's more versed and argue and may sound like, oh, I could destroy you guys on what you're saying, right? But here's one thing that's true. I don't care who you are. One thing that's true is either you do something different, or you do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the three things that's a fact,
Mm-hmm.
regardless. So Trump is doing something. Nobody's presented anything clear of something differently to do. And we can't be stupid enough as a country to think we can
To not do anything.
We
right.
can't be that stupid.
We're not doing that. Nah, I don't think people are going to be like, "Oh, do nothing." No, I think they're complaining about wanting something.
No.
Wait. Let me wind that back. Yeah. So there are complaints out there is what I'm saying. People are complaining, but they're not offering any other solution. So yeah, I think that's the point that I was trying to make with that.
I'm with you 1,000%. I'm with you 1,000%. And you know what though? You're right. People don't have a solution, but it's not about a solution when you talk about everyday people. It isn't about a solution.
Right.
Everyday Americans don't want their lives disturbed any more than they already are. However, the cost of doing nothing. So if we talk about let me go over to his list of tariffs real quick. His full list. Now, I'm just going to scroll through it. It does not important to go through each country. But the main thing is that when you look at the actual list, these are all the countries and their percentages.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So these are all their countries and their percentages. Let's go over to the main important one, because there's higher ones in different places, but some places are not. Cambodia and Madagascar. Some of these places are not places that we really import a lot of stuff to anyway.
So, can you scroll down so we can see? I'm sorry, maybe up so I can read the paragraph above to see what this chart is showing.
So these are the reciprocal tariffs paid by American businesses that import goods from these countries. Economists expect those businesses to pass off the new tariffs to American consumers who could face higher costs on everything from iPhones to coffee beans grown in Colombia. Now, we already know that tariffs are going to cost the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
We know this, and it is what it is. But what we're talking about is the why, right?
Mm-hmm.
The why, short term or long term. So the main thing everybody's talking about is China, 34%. Now, from my understanding, there's a 10% baseline tariff that Trump has put on everybody. In addition, the calculations, how they coming up with these tariffs is that, or the percentage, they're doing some type of a calculation where they say there's a baseline percentage plus They're adding on whatever the differences of what they used to charge versus what we used to charge, and they're adding a portion on depending on the country if they feel like that country has unfair trade balance, unfair currency manipulation. So they're coming up with the calculation. Doesn't matter. They came up with it. China, 34%. So China came back around and said, okay, they came back and did a reciprocal. So here's the thing. At the end of the day, oh, there we go. I lost the window. At the end of the day, it's like, whether you agree with tariffs or don't agree with tariffs, my thing is that Americans have to, hopefully, at bare minimum, this time period we have right now will bring Americans to the fruition or the reality of where America actually is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because when Richard Wolff said that it's game over, that's the part I think most Americans don't understand. And he had said something to Mark Lamont, which was interesting. He said, then why is Trump doing what he's doing? He said because Trump does not want to be the politician or the president, or nobody wants to be the one to tell the Americans we're no longer number one.
Oh.
So
wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The American psyche,
Hmm.
the American psyche is what we're witnessing. This is what we're really witnessing, the American psyche.
Mm.
This is what's actually not at war, but this is what's actually at stake right now, the American psyche. So when you just said a minute ago how you said you don't feel like it's desperation, and you feel like the tariffs and the things they're trying to do are to make a difference. You either believe that or you don't believe that. Or you believe there's something different, but I'm going to take out the something different because nobody's talking about nothing different. Only thing people are talking about is I like it, I don't like it. So the people on the street protesting, do you think Americans have accepted the fact we're not number one, or we won't be number one on the world stage in the future?
Nope. I don't even think that's a thought. I don't even think that's a thought, honestly. Yeah, it hit me just when you just said it. I was like, "Oh,
I told you that's why I came to that
hits
revelation.
different. That does hit different." Are we now at a point in time in history where we truly aren't number one, but oh God, that would be heartbreaking. I'm sorry, like I don't care. Well, I care, but that's real.
That's our psyche.
That's
We don't
real.
know if you are an American, and I could say it damn near any time period, unless you were around when America was fighting for its independence from England, which I know nobody was. Unless you were around in the 1770s,
almost 250 years ago.
Maybe you have a different purview. But if you're an American of any recent time in the last like 100 and so years, right? America has been number one for so long, we don't know anything else. We don't know anything else so much. And this is why I'm saying about the protesters, people who are protesting. I'm not saying they're wrong, but they think they're arguing about women's rights, trans rights, government workers, our rights, oligarchy, tyrants. They think they're arguing about that. And they really don't, I don't say they don't understand, but they're not talking about what's really going on. America is a number one.
Yeah.
Now, China, which nobody's been paying attention to, China, they don't have a deficit. They don't have a trade deficit. They have a trade surplus. They have a budget surplus, and they have a trade surplus. And they've had one ever since we've had a lot of these bad decisions that have put them on the world stage, and they've just been stacking their bread while we have policies that help us not to stack our bread. Now, American businesses have gotten wealthier and done well, but Americans in general have not gotten better. I'm like, that's the part that's the conversation I wish we was having.
So let me ask you this. Well, just personal opinion, or just from what you gathered out of the interview, do you feel like we are on our downfall and this is like the last hurrah to save us all?
That's a great question, love. You know, that's a really, really good question because I just came to the revelation today that I was like, damn, when I heard Richard Wolff say it, or anybody who's an economist say that, you know what, it's over for us. You know, before I say what I think, what really hit me is that I realize now that there are other people who think that way, other in depth, on point, in the know people who think that way. So when I hear that, I say to myself, okay, I have heard that point of view before. I've heard people say it. It's not new. But hearing someone say it in the midst of a president who's trying to do something, for me was like, damn. Then that means, then what are we doing anyway? What's the
Okay.
point?
So no.
let me
So
answer
let me
you.
hold you. Let me stop you
I
right
want to
there
ask you a
because
question.
here's
Go
the point.
ahead. Mhm.
Okay, go ahead. Ask me your
No, I
question.
want to answer your question.
Oh,
You asked
okay.
me personally how I feel. How I
Yeah.
feel personally. How I feel personally is that yes, I do think that America in our current condition is on its way down. I'm not saying America is over, but America is
In its
obviously
current
in its
condition.
current condition.
Yeah, for sure. I
It's
could
not
agree with that.
sustainable for us to be number one
Right.
in the world.
Yeah, we
Now,
can't sustain
we
that.
cannot sustain that. And
Mm-mm.
why it means so much is that we're Americans. We grew up here. We have children here. We have property here. This is our home. So for me, do I think that we're going there inevitably? I wouldn't say inevitably. I feel like probably how you feel. Something got to be done. We got to address these things to have a chance. It's almost like, yeah, we losing, but do we just be like, well, we just gonna lose anyway? What's going on right now? I'm gonna say this now. I won't cut you off, but what's going on right now to me is we're like a team who's losing, and we're arguing amongst the team. We're sitting here having these side arguments. I don't like your jersey. I don't like your shoes. I don't like the chain you got on. Meanwhile,
I don't like that play you did.
I don't like that
I
play.
don't like that play.
I don't like that play.
Yeah,
I don't like the way you wore your hair to the game. Like we're having all these other arguments that are fair arguments. Don't get me wrong. People can have their gripes, but as far as the country where we see our team going, I feel like we're not even realizing that we getting our asses kicked. And the thing is that our kids have to inherit the team. Our grandkids have to inherit the team. So in the long run, being so angry about, I'm not saying people have to agree with this president, but I think people have to get out of their Trump derangement, I hate this guy and their evil thing, and start getting into, well, do I realize where the country is and where do I want it to go?
Yeah, that's pretty much the question right there. Do we realize where this country is in standing to other countries? Wow. Okay. Yeah, that definitely puts a different type of spin on it. I think I really don't think it's a downfall. I think there have been too many cards stacked against him. And I'm saying him because this is our president, okay? Right. It's not about being Republic or identifying as, conservative. But I saw the goal. I saw the goal before he became president. I listened to how all of his speeches, all of his rallies, and I listened to both sides during that time. I was listening to everybody, everything. And it just made sense to me the way that how he wanted to address the issues that were going on in our country. And I think he's overcome so much, even prior to becoming president, that that makes me feel like it's not the last hurrah. I feel like this is an awakening happening, and it's helping to clear the clutter of our psyche. And we're going to learn from this. We're never going to want to be in that kind of position again. I'm hoping that this is like a turning point, and it is a revelation that everybody gets to see, and we all come out on top. that's
so optimistic.
I know, but that's how I
No, it's good. I'm
that's
saying in a
that's
good
how
way.
I'm seeing it, and that's the energy that I'm going to feed it. That's the energy that I'm going to give it. I would not want to view this as being doom and gloom, like, and this is the end. That doesn't leave much hope for our children or our children's children.
Mm-hmm.
So I am going to put energy where I feel like I just it's just I don't know, maybe that's just my being, maybe I'm just an optimistic person. I mean, I think I also realize if something is like this ain't gonna work, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like every all the policies that he's pushing so far, the things that he talked about, and these are the actions happening right before our eyes. It's no longer talk. I mean, this is yeah, I feel like this is like the last straw. I feel like this is the last straw. And if we can get the wheels going, right now they're not moving so much, but if we can get the wheels going in the right direction, then we chugging along, we moving, and
Right.
as a society, as a country, and
Right.
it's good, and we have we're not manufacturing a lot here anymore. And when we were being raised, we had factories galore.
Well, that's because
So
they feel like and that's what I'm
I
saying.
think that'll help boost our economy, just getting things produced here. And I feel like it's going in a good direction. I don't feel like a doom and gloom, like this is it. I feel like if we don't change now, then yeah, that would be
That would
that
be
would
it.
be it.
Yeah.
That would be it. But I don't
Yeah.
think this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. And I think that's I don't really know how else you could look at it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, and just going back to your point about both parties, I looked at it too. I was telling, a friend of ours the same thing when we were having this debate. I was like, I was open to Kamala. I wasn't closed to Kamala, and I wasn't closed to either one. And I didn't vote for Trump the very first time he ran. You know what I'm saying? I thought Hillary Clinton was going to win, but
I didn't vote for either. I didn't
all
I
those
didn't vote
things.
at all that year.
But it doesn't matter if you're not focused so much on identity. So for
Yeah.
me, I'm like, to me, the thing is that I looked at both people and I looked at who was going to address some of the problems. And when I hear people say, especially with right now, if I hear people saying, you know what, America is in number one. Let me talk about a couple things that he said. I'm not even going to play the video. I'll just talk about what he said. Dick Wolf was saying that in that interview. He was saying that right now, the things that we just said, America has a deficit. China has a surplus. China is not only the largest, their economy is just about surpassed ours if it hasn't already. If it hasn't now, it will be very soon. They have stronger military around the world, and they also have BRICS. They also have a coalition of countries. And what he was explaining is that, back in the day when you had other smaller countries who needed to borrow money, where they typically went was the US or Europe.
Yep.
That's where they went to borrow their money from the Americans or Europe most of the time. Now what's happening is that you have other players in the game. So when other countries want to borrow money, they can come to the US to ask, and they can also go to China, they can go to India to get money, and they can see what the best deals are. Countries borrow money just like humans borrow money from the bank to do things, and they get different rates, different agreements. It's the same thing. So people have to understand, if you don't care where America is in the world, I'll say this. I honestly don't care if America's number two. That doesn't really bother me personally, right? But I don't want I don't want us to pretend like we're number one, and then our whole way of being is going down. That, you know what I mean? And I just feel like
That's a false narrative that you got that we got going on in our head, if that's the case.
100%. If people have kids, I'm like, yo, you guys got to start looking beyond just this 4 years is what I'm concerned
Oh
about.
yeah.
Is it over for America? That's the question I want people to think about. Is it over for America, and are you okay with that? And what does over mean? Over means that we're going to no longer be the biggest economy. It means we'll no longer be the people who manufacture the most things. We're already not necessarily the smartest country per se, and we might not be the best land for opportunity in the future either. So, are you okay with America not being all of that? And what does it mean?
That's a good question.
So-
Great question. Great question. Yeah.
So I guess we'll leave it there. Thanks for tuning into the Crucial Convo podcast. I'm Kojo Afriye and my lovely wife.
Faith Afriye. You can find me at Half Faith Yoga.
Yes, absolutely. All platforms.
All
How you spell that?
platforms. HAVF8TH.
Absolutely. And thanks for tuning into the Crucial Convo
Yoga.
podcast. If you have not yoga. And if you haven't tapped the subscribe button, don't consider it. Just do it. Hit the subscribe button. We care about having great conversations on the channel, and appreciate all the current subscribers and love all comments, good or bad. All right. Peace.
Bye.